We had the most eclectic group of people you could find anywhere. We have a combination of Robert Altman, Jules Pfeiffer writing the screenplay, producer Robert Evans, Harry Nielsen doing the music, Peppino Rotuno, a cinematographer. It's like cinema alchemy. Add to that, we shoot it in Malta. Build a set and sink actual boats in the middle of a harbor. Good luck, here we go.
I was asked if I was interested. I think a few people turned it down. It came to me, and I just loved the idea. We tried to do the same thing that Seagar did when he wrote those Popeye strips and drew them, was you create a character and make it consistent to itself.
We wanted to go off of the comics, not the animated, what everybody was really used to, you know, the cartoons. So we really did most of our research on that.
The beginning of that film was very much Seagar, fairly intellectual, and as the film went along, it got more cartoonish. And at the end, it is pure, you know, Bluto and Popeye and fights and olive oil, screaming save me, etc.
By the order vested in me by Pluto on behalf of the Commodore.
Oh, boy, the Commodore. Next to Wimpy, I hate him best.
The way I looked at it, Sweet Haven was this place that was insane. There's a lot of political connections there. I mean, the Commodore, who ran everything nobody had ever seen. Nobody knew who he was. The enforcer of the unseen king was this brutal Bluto guy. And Popeye was blown off course, and the longer he stayed in that place, the more he became like them. So we really brought a guy into this cartoon world, and he didn't change it, it changed him.
But first of all, there's 17 cents new in town tax. And there's 45 cents rowboat under the wharf tax and $1 leaving your junk lying around the wharf tax.
We had hiccups in the makeup department. The arms didn't quite go like what we wanted for Popeye, and so we had to disguise his arms for the first week, I think, of shooting while a team put together the new set of arms that would actually look right.
Initially, the arms looked like bad hazmat gloves, and they looked like I was wearing two huge hand condoms. But Bob was patient. He just said, we'll get the right people in, and we got them in. And they got this incredible Italian makeup artist who did almost these anatomically correct sub-muscles and skin over the top of that with these little Italian ladies working day and night who came and individually punched arm hair into the arms.
We had a vision that was going to be cartoon-esque. Everything was going to be exaggerated. It was purposeful, everything we did. It was oversaturated and muted at the same time.
Giuseppe Rotuno was the cinematographer on it, and he did just a fabulous job of lighting that and photographing that.
Popeye the sailor, I'm Popeye the sailor, I'm Popeye the sailor.
I was a big fan of Harry's, and I knew Harry, and it was, let's get Harry. I brought Harry, Van Dyke Parks, the guy who played the preacher, Ray Cooper. He worked with Elton John as a drummer, the Beatles, all of those guys, and Harry. They were all a mafia. And we had 5 musicians, and we built a recording studio there also where we saw our dailies. All of the songs were recorded over there.
You know, I have to say, I love that music. And Shelley, her little thing with He Needs Me, that's a standalone classic.
And all at once I knew at once, I knew he needed me.
But I do.
But he does.
I love the fact that she really can't sing quite, but that she made an olive oil effort to me is stronger, because this isn't about music. It's the same way in Nashville. This wasn't about perfect music. Yet Harry's songs are terrific.
Most of the actors weren't trained musicians. That was, you know, the one thing. Ray had a very hard time singing that song Kids as rapidly as that.
Cry at you when they're young, they yell at you when they're older, they borrow from you when they're middle-aged, and they'll leave you alone to die.
He couldn't hold the pipe, keep the scrunch. It was not easy.
This ain't a pipe.
Doing Popeye was like going to a war in a distant country, and it's traumatic. We all have PTSD. We can tell funny stories about it now, but for, many years afterwards, it was like, oh man, don't talk about Malta.
What is it? It's a rock. It's a hot place.
We were going to try and shoot it in Florida, then Bogota. Then about a year later, we ended up in Malta because they had a deep sea infinity tank that they did all big shipwrecks, Poseidon Adventure and the Sinbad movies and all of that. And so we went there for that. And they had a cove that we could build the town. The bay itself was called Anchor Harbor.
Malta turned out to be the absolute best place. We had to build that whole village, and it was just a matter of economy.
Our production designer was Wolf Kruger, my mentor. Such an amazing artist. And so the models he built and the sketches were fantastic. Our carpenters were all from Italy, and our draftsmen and art directors were from England, and they were very precise with their drawings. So the town started to go up very straight and neat and even, and Wolf went crazy. And it was just like, no, it's got to be tilted. Da, 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 da. Okay, then we have to draw it in. And he's just like, well, that's not going to look right if we have to draw every mistake. So he took all their power tools away and all their levels and tape measures and wouldn't let them use them. All that stuff sort of melds in together, and it's just everybody feeding off actual Popeye legend.
Wait a minute, this town could have been built in a couple of hours. Whoa.
Wolf was a genius, and that was their vision, those boats and the whole thing. And being on Malta, I was there 8 months. We had a presence on Malta for well over a year. My son, Steve, didn't leave the island for a year. I don't think Wolf Kruger did.
We worked 6 days a week. There was no way to get off the island. And we were over budget on this and over schedule.
We initially were there for 2 months, and then the weather crapped out, so we were there for 3 months. We shot it in this beautiful Mediterranean light, and then the weather it got so bad, even the Maltese go, it's never been this bad in 40 years. So every day we'd all gather in, wait to see if the weather would clear, and it didn't.
All of our water work and the boat work we saved to the very end of the movie. We would go out to the dock with our boats and crews and all that stuff, and it was too choppy. I think it was, 26 days over schedule, something bad, and bad for Bob Evans. It didn't make him look good.
After waiting a month, the budget started to run over, and this was, I guess, after Heaven's Gate, so studios are getting a little squirrely. So they pulled back and took all the special effects people home. So Shelley's stuck in the water with an octopus with no one to run it, so it's a bit like Ed Wood time. She's like, help! And the octopus, the tentacles are falling off of her. And Bob's just going, just try it. And then one point we go, how do we end the movie? And Robert Evans, he's like, I don't know how do we end the movie. And I joked, I said, I could walk on the water like Jesus. Robert Evans went, yes! Bob Altman just went, sure, let's see what happens. And I ended up dancing on the water like Jesus.
Lights out!
By the time we left, the church had burned down. The buildings where we would store our props for the boats, like buoys and rope and that kind of thing, got infested with rats. They asked, how long do you think it will stand? And we said, well, 3 to 4 months, maybe 6 tops. What is it now? 40 years it's been there?
That Popeye Village still exists. If you go to Malta, you go pay $2. It's like an amusement park, and they sell hamburgers.
I still get pictures of what they've done to it. They painted it all bright colors, and they have little Popeye action and things going on, and it's still going today. I'm shocked. I'm amazed.
And the opening premiere, they had it at Grumman's Chinese Theater, and the movie played okay. As I'm walking outside after the movie, paparazzi guy is standing outside, and he saw that everyone's kind of walking out like a little nonplussed, and the guy turned to me and went, welcome to show business. So that was my introduction after that premiere of like, this is going to be my big breakthrough role. Not really. It was a great experience, but the idea of being a movie star, not going to happen for a while. Good luck. Take care. Bye-bye.
The picture was not a success in terms of Paramount and Disney. They combined on that. What they wanted it to be, I think as a film, people never really got it. I don't know, the audience had only seen, in terms of comic strip translations, they'd only seen Superman at that time. That got a teenage audience. Popeye either got a real young audience or an adult audience.
Everything was big about that back then, you know, the massive budget that went spiraling out of control. $20 million, my God. And it was set for 18, I think. There's a lot of, you know, total bomb, didn't make a penny, although, I don't know, 60 million at the box office. That doesn't sound bad for a $20 million film.
There's more copies of Popeye floating around on tape, and people take their children and shove them into a room with the television set, and they put Popeye on. And that's been its longevity. It's America's babysitter.
Someone once said working with Bob is kind of like Bob takes you up to the edge of a cliff, pushes you off. You may not know what you're doing, but you're sure interesting screaming on the way down. It was tough, but really, I'm glad I worked with him. He was really an extraordinary man.
People ask me, who was your favorite director, who was your least favorite? Just like both the same guy. But, you know, he was my father, so it was difficult. I'll tell you, on Gosford Park, I built the downstairs on stage at Shepperton, and he walked in and looked around and started literally crying. It was the greatest. He was just like, I just think of you as a little kid running around in diapers, you know, and I just like, you do all this work. And I was just like, wow, that's, you know, the best compliment I could have had. I loved working with him, and I felt I understood by the end what he wanted, which was everything.
Go to sleep, sleep, sleepy. Now tell me what you sees. And someday when you're older, I'll tell you all about me.
Love from Popeye. Good night, Papa.
The idea of being able to put on screen a two-dimensional world was very important to me. It was my opinion that we could take all of those characters and line them up on a cliff and just see their silhouettes, and you'd know who each person was by their outline.
Eat that spinach, you brat. You eat that spinach.
I don't think the film would have been made without Robin Williams. I'm trying to think if there was ever another name that even came up. When it was first written, Jules, I kind of think had Dustin Hoffman in mind. But when I got to it, I'm sure it was Robin Williams all the way. I went right out to California and had a meeting with him because I didn't know much about him. But nobody did. He was Mork.
I am what I am, wherever I go. I came from the sea. Believe it or not.
We had a rehearsal period of, I think, a couple of weeks just working on the dance numbers. Not only did I have to be like a boxer, I also had to be a tap dancer and a gymnast. So they hired this guy, Lou Ganopoulos, to teach me how to tap dance and do gymnastics on the streets of Malta.
Robin Williams, what a wonderful guy. I actually, I liked him so much. I considered him my friend, and he's on all the time, or was rather. And I would have a conversation with him, and just he and I, and totally normal. But if more than two people got with him, he'd turn on his act. I never minded it because, he's so witty.
Shelley Duvall, to me, was Olive Oyl.
Nice looking room.
Gilda Radner was the first person who was kind of thought about it at Paramount. And I met with Gilda, and she would have been good. But to me, Shelley was Olive Oyl. I mean, she just had all of those qualities.
Why would they manufacture deliberate ugliness unless they wanted me to look ugly? Oh.
I wanted Shelley for it. And Paramount people, Charlie Bluthorn, who was the head of that company, and a guy named Don Simpson, they came over, and Simpson, he had no connection with this project other than he was active at Paramount. And he didn't want to use Shelley Duvall. And I just, at that moment, I said, this is who I'm using in the film, or I'm not doing the film. Of course, she was the best thing in the film. She was perfect. She had all the naivete that made that character other than just an imitation.
I said fooey, and I mean fooey. Fooey.
Paul, he came out of those Italian westerns, and he was just a big, big guy. He was Bluto.
Paul Smith, how could you be better than that? He played that role to a T.
I mean, you know what I mean. You know what I say. You know what I mean.
The scene where he was breaking up the Oils house, smashing it all up because he was angry because Olive Oyl wasn't there. We shot the scene, and Bob goes very wide and many cameras on things like that. And Paul did his thing. He smashed the table and crushed the guy, and then broke a door and smashed through it. And then we cut, and Paul goes, that door, it really hurt my hand. And we're all standing there going, yes, Paul, the breakaway door is to the right. You just broke a real door.
I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
He would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Paul Dooley had been a staple with Bob for a long time.
Paul had done different things for me, a wedding and Perfect Couple, and I just thought he was a perfect wimpy.
Rough House, a genuine hamburger for the gentleman. I'm buying.
Hey, thanks.
Who's paying? I'm buying, he's paying.
Because I was a property master, he was my favorite actor. He took care of his props. You never had to check, if he was smoking a cigarette, see if it was the right length, or the glass was filled perfectly.
One hamburger, Chisler's tacos.
I just liked it. I still do, of course.
Well, it appears that your father is the Commodore.
Eat your spinach, you no good intake. Eat it.
I don't know how I got to Ray Walston,
Eat it.
but boy, that was a strike of genius on my part, or somebody's part. And I forget how his name came up, but when I met with him, I realized that this guy, again, I don't think there's anybody who had the right DNA to play that.
It's not easy being me, master of me own destiny.
He had all the musical, he had all of the exaggeration he was able to do. He was a great performer.
Me, shut your lip and open your mouth.
Bob got such a kick out of it. Sitting in the office, he goes, oh my God, we have Mork from Ork and My Favorite Martian, the only two aliens in film business.
I'm gonna show you the treasure chest now. They watch. Here we gonna watch it open up.
I didn't know what we were going to do for Sweet Pea, but my daughter had just had this baby, and she brought the baby down, came to visit me, and this kid had been born with Bell's palsy. It's very common in children to have this when they're first born. It doesn't last, but I saw this kid, so when he'd laugh, he'd go. Then I realized that I had control over my daughter, so I thought, well, this is the thing to do.
Oh. Sweet Pea, will Popeye be seriously mean? No?
The infant is a psychic of prefix.
Bob is like, this will be so much easier with my own family member. And he was great. He did end up learning how to walk and talk before the end of the movie. So it was very hard to keep him in those little onesies and, not crawling around everywhere. He was wonderful. We're very respectful of him, and we hoisted him up on some lift above a writhing octopus and a tank of water. I mean, how could that not affect a kid? I don't know. He was smiling at the time.
Now, where's this baby come from? 89 cents unlicensed baby tax. Get out of this.
There were no extras in this film. Most of those people who made up the town of Sweet Haven were performers. They were circus clowns. These are all specialists. Jeff Hoyle, Bill Irwin, people like that. I mean, there's that scene of Bill Irwin when his hat blows off and he's chasing it down the street trying to catch it, kicking it and all that. Well, that's an act that he does. So we were able to use these circus performers and incorporate them into the text, actually. And some very serious actors put in other roles.
Nice looking face there, One-Eye.
And we made this company. Actually, when we got to Malta, where we shot this, I had a Quonset hut built, a very large space, and it was a rehearsal hall and a dance hall.
Dancing.
Everybody had to learn a walk. How are you going to walk? Are you going to take 2 steps and then 1, or 1 step and then 2? Or are you going to have a little dance? Or are you going to have a limp? Or are you going to have what? But everybody had to have a walk. Everybody had to be 2-dimensional.
And he would literally just like, okay, here's the scene, set it up, just like, okay, what can you do? Oh, well, I can make myself scrunch down into a little ball, Bill Irwin. Oh, okay, well, we'll have Bluto come over and squish you down. Whether they were a juggler or a comedian or a circus performer, everybody was so physical. It was really cool.
This is a smorgasbord of violence.
With Bob, I think he just wanted you to try anything.
Excellent idea, Miss Oil. I would suggest you
Good,
do
good,
not
good.
promote
All about
fish.
her engagement,
Wish I had a
Mr.
plate,
Wimpy.
The whole thing about him improvising multiple soundtracks, multiple microphones, and just getting this kind of mix of like life.
I could have made a fortune in fish futures, but I have to dip into capital.
Fish future smell.
It's going to be chaos, but in a weird way, ordered chaos. He loved actors and he loved musicians, and I think that really shines. That's why I said improvise. Let's see what we can find. Even when we're doing this weird musical.
Thanks. Well, I've been sailing about the 7 seas, looking for somebody who would sail with me, sail with me, sail with me.
And I've been waiting for someone like you, a man who can love me and will promise to stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me. Sailing, sailing, sailing,
What am I? I'm Popeye, the sailor. And I am what I am, what I am, and I am what I am, and that's all that I am, 'cause I am what I am. You got it? I think so, yeah. And I've got a lot of muscle, and I only got one eye, and I never hurt nobody, and I'll never tell a lie. Top to my bottom, from the bottoms to my top. That's the way it is, till the day that I drop. What am I? What am I? I am what I am! I'm Popeye, the sailor. I'm Popeye, the sailor. I am what I am, and that's all that I am. I am what I am, what I am, what I am. I'm Popeye, the sailor. I must trust only, baby. You're a baby, it says here, right there, right?
Robin Williams, Shelley Duvall, in Popeye.
Olive, forgive me, Olive.
I said fooey, and I mean fooey. Fooey.
He said,